So after going through all of that, I finally decided to listen to her advice and then take it from her point of view. Even though I got involved throughout the whole process, so I edited the personal statement, and then she asked me, okay, so what school do you think we can submit the applications to?
Yeah.
So at that time, I was part of this study abroad group on WhatsApp, and then I saw a post about East Tennessee State University and how they are recruiting students for their communication studies and storytelling program.
Mhm.
So I chanced upon that, and then I made use of the opportunity. I consulted the coordinator for the program, and then he told me how competitive the program was, and then she wanted to know, okay, why do I want to be in the program? So I needed to be very specific and have a clear, concise reason why I think the program is a good fit for me. So upon further interactions with her, she was finally convinced that I could submit the application. And so it goes to show the importance of communication, the importance of communicating with directors of the firm in order to get a better understanding, so that you get the exposure with them.
Yeah.
It makes it easier for them to consider you for funding as well, because then they know you more and they become conversant with you. So I submitted the application eventually, and then I think 3 weeks after submission, I think first week in May. Yes, is it first week in May or second week in May? I got an admission offer from the school, and then it didn't come with funding. It didn't come with funding. The only funding I had for the school was $5,000, and my deficit was around 40,000. So I got frightened. I was like, okay, here we go again. But lo and behold, I consulted the coordinator again, and then he said, they've gone through all of my materials. I have potential to succeed in the program. My transcript looks very good. My personal statement is well written and is clear and concise. I am a good fit for the program, and so they would give me the opportunity, and that is why I have the admission. However, I had to make it clear to her that without funding, I would be unable to make it to the program because I do not have the financial means to meet the funding requirements for pursuing the graduate program. And then she said, okay, I should hold on as funding decisions are yet to be made later in that month of May. So I think she said I should hold on until June, if I am not mistaken, until June, to hear from them about the funding, even though decisions will be made by the end of May. So I held on, I think, second week or third week of June, then boom, I had a funding decision. It wasn't 100% funded because my health insurance wasn't taken care of, but then it was sufficient funding. It was about 95% of funding, and that was more than enough for me to pursue my master's program here in the US. So I would say it has been a tiring process, but once you get yourself well vested into the process, you're good to go. Surround yourself with positive people and people who hold the capacity to influence your process positively, and that helps you to have successful outcomes if you would ask me. Yes.
Yeah, I think I have a similar story that I'll be bringing on board, where the student actually got funding, but the funding wasn't enough, and he reached out to the program's coordinator and was like, in my country, if you don't have funding, even getting the visa is really difficult. So I'm pleading with you. This is a plea. If you can actually increase my funding,
Yes.
it will be very good for me. And they did. They increased his funding for him. So I think that is something you also did that really helped. Anytime you get funding from a school, you can actually bargain or negotiate with them if they have other funding opportunities where you can tap from in order to get maybe a fully funded opportunity or fully funded scholarship. So Manuel, this is Eastern Tennessee that we're talking about, right?
Yes, East Tennessee State University.
Okay, so after you got the funding, which you knew, okay, was enough, although you had deficit, now it's
Yes.
time for you to prepare for your visa interview. And I know definitely you're going to get your I-20, and your I-20 is actually going to make all the indications and all the cost of living and all the monies involved and everything. So when you got your I-20 from the school, which is actually going to enable you to apply for a visa date in Ghana. How did
Yes.
I go? Because looking at your time, the time you giving me, that was actually a period where people are even waiting to go for their interviews, and that is the time that you got your I-20 from the school. So
Yes.
how did you go about it, and how did you get it like as soon as possible? Because time was fast spent.
It was a nerve-wracking period, if you would ask me, because I got my funding at the end of June, and then at a time where people are even planning to travel the next month, others have already booked for their interview appointments at the U.S. Embassy in Accra. And so it was a time where I was really tired and confused because I don't know, struggling to get a date, an appointment date for your interview in Ghana. It was a full hustle on its own. So I got confused as to if I should be fair, but then I know what I have been through to get the funding, right? To get the opportunity. And so I did not want it to go by just like that. And so I needed to be on top of my game. It wasn't easy getting an appointment date. Sleepless nights, I would go to work and constantly be on my phone, be on my computer, searching for appointment dates. I would have my sister on her phone working the other side for me as well. It wasn't easy. I had friends. I was online with friends who were equally coming to the same school, and so once a date comes in, then they'll quickly send a notice to the group, and then those without dates would apply. But it wasn't forthcoming. It wasn't forthcoming because in a month or in a week, you would just have about a few slots coming in for one date, and then before you know it, it's gone. And so it was a full hustle. It wasn't easy getting dates, especially in Accra. But lo and behold, and I should mention that my I-20 did not come in until about a week of 5 days before my interview. So I panicked because I was like, okay, my I-20 is not in yet, even though I have been approved for funding and all that. So how do I even book for an appointment date? So I got all of those things going on. But I eventually got a date. It was a Saturday, 29th of July. That is when I attended my interview. And I think 4 or 5 days before my interview, my I-20 came in. I had a deficit, right? My deficit was around $8,000. And my school, you can't just use any bank statement at all, because on our I-20, stated on the I-20 is the name of your sponsor.
Yeah.
So the visa officer can see who is sponsoring you and would definitely mention the person's name. So it's not as if you can submit a different bank statement to the school for your I-20 and then later submit a different one for your interview. So there was that hustle as well, because getting a credible bank statement wasn't easy, especially if it's not coming from a member of your family. So it wasn't easy. It needed to be someone you trusted, because you can't put chances to submitting I-20s in different offices.
Yeah.
Mentioning the embassy and the school, it was a real hustle. But eventually, I did get a date, and then I got a date on the Thursday before my interview. My interview was on Saturday, and I got the date on Thursday. So I had only about a day to prepare for 2 nights to prepare for the interview.
Embassy didn't used to work on the weekend, but I think it got to the point that people actually needed interview days. So I think it got to a point they changed their time frame to include the weekends, because the embassy, I know, is just from Monday to Friday, but I think during our time, 2023, they changed to some weekend. I remember.
Yes, actually, they were overwhelmed with a lot of visa applications that was coming in for the fall 2023. And then if they had stick to only Monday during only the weekdays, then it would have been a problem, because then they wouldn't have a lot of opportunity to interview the vast number of people who have submitted application for visa interviews.
Yeah.
So I was one of the fortunate ones who got the opportunity to attend my interview on the weekend, which was on a Saturday. So it was just 2 nights. I had only 2 nights. I remember my friends and I, we were panicking. Others got the date earlier, but then once they got the Saturday date, they had to quickly change because it was more time for them to prepare more. But then I couldn't risk that 29 because we didn't know if dates will still come. And so you would just have to
29th August?
29th July.
July.
29th July. So it was really, really scary, nerve-wracking, and it's an opportunity you just can't let go by. Unless, of course, you want to defer to the spring semester, which I wasn't ready to, because I don't know if my funding will still hold. Because some schools do not hold funding for you in subsequent semesters if you would like to defer.
Yeah.
Others tell you you can defer and then your funding will still hold. But then I didn't know if I stood that chance, and so I wasn't willing to take chances at all. So I remember I had to worry all of my friends. I brought them on board. I was simultaneously attending visa interviews, multiple ones.
Yeah.
I wrote transcripts, and then I am not used to writing before taking an exam or writing before taking an interview. And so this time around, I needed to adjust with that mechanism. So it was really tough. I remember going through questions and trying to formulate my answers to them. But then once you know exactly why you are coming to the US and then what you want to do, it makes it easier.
Yeah.
It's best with the first point I raised, that if you are passionate about the program you are going to read, then no matter how rigorous, overwhelming, or intense the graduate program is, because it is something you really want to pursue, you are dedicated to it regardless, right? And so yes, though I had only 2 nights, but then because I know what exactly I want to do with this opportunity, I had to sacrifice sleepless nights. I remember I had a very terrible cold and malaria at the time, so I wasn't well at all. But then I didn't tell anyone about it. I needed to go through this process, knowing that I would come out at the end successful and then everything will be okay. So it was a tough time, but then I prepared sleepless nights, like constantly reading transcripts, consulted a lot of people. I consulted a lot of people who gave me insight into how to answer certain questions, how to respond to the visa officer, how to be confident, you know me as a very outspoken person. I don't have a problem speaking in public, or I don't have confidence issues. But believe you me, this process will humble you to some extent if you if you would agree. No matter how outspoken you are, this process, the interview itself will humble you to some extent. So I was really humbled by that process. But then I surrounded myself with a lot of experienced people who had a lot of information that could help me, and then that really, really helped. So I attended a visa interview. I remember getting there and then see the number of people. I think that Saturday was the day where they recorded the highest number of interviews.
Before you got there, like on a Saturday, like the eve of the event, the 9th.
Yes.
How were you feeling? I know all this while you were trying to put in much work just to calm down and reduce the pressure. But the 9th before, and what were you feeling? How was the feeling like? And did you make sure that all the documents that were needed, you had gathered everything that night, or you planned to gather them the following day?
Wow, I love this question. I love it because I think it would inspire a lot of other people. Because I remember when I got the date on the Thursday, I was in a car around 5:30 p.m. returning from work to the house. I was in a car when a friend called me at the States. I had already given my login details to him, and so he called me. So once I saw his call, I didn't even pick up the call. I quickly jumped into the portal to see if indeed the date, and then I saw a date. I remember picking a date, and then once I didn't pick his call, he also picked the same date, but picked a different time. So I had to rectify that. It's not a feeling I would actually wish for anyone, because it was a very short period. I hadn't printed my bank statement. I hadn't printed my transcripts. I had only my certificates, my sponsorship letters. I hadn't printed anything. But once you are going to the interview, you need like it's a full document that you need. Your file must be really packed, from transcripts, bank sponsorship letters, to bank statements, to other supporting documents that to make your arguments very tangible and understanding. So I had only one night to do all of that. I didn't print them on the Friday. I didn't print them on the Thursday evening after getting the date. I actually printed them on the Friday evening because I had work the next Friday and then I didn't take permission. So it was a very hectic time. I sleepless nights. I was all alone. I was doing all of this alone. I was printing my document. I had to take pictures. A picture that was rejected when I even got to the embassy, I had to take new ones at the embassy. So it was just one night, and then one night contained a lot. It takes resilience, determination, and confidence to do all of that in one night. Attending simultaneous interviews online, being in a trustee. I don't own a car. I didn't pick Uber, so I was in a trustee, and then I was doing mock interviews in the trustee while going to print my documents. It was tough. It was really, really tough. It takes only a very passionate and very driven person to do that. I'm not praising myself, but then I know what I went through.
Yeah.
Then I want others to pick from there. Once you are committed to doing something or achieving something, you should do it with your full self. You should get well vested into it, and then believe you me, if not for anything, it would be rewarding at the end. And so it was a very tiring night.
Yeah.
But I did not sleep. I was panicking. It was scary. I was calling my mom. I was waking her up every minute.
So I asked her for you or what? You needed prayers or something?
I needed prayers. I joined Alpha Hour. I remember Alpha Hour. In the year 2023, actually, I joined Alpha Hour. That was when I joined Alpha, because everything was going bad. Everything goes bad, and then we go to God to ask for His mercy. When things are going bad, we remember God. So I remember, I'm not saying I'm not a Christian boy, I am, but I wasn't as close to God as this process made me. You should have seen me in my room, firing and chastising Satan as if it was a very funny experience, but very inspiring, because I needed the support, the divine support, and then I want to thank my family so much, and my friends, those I came to the school with, and then you have been a pillar as well. Others, the list is very tall, but then I had all of this positive energy around me, coupled with the divine support, and then I made it through.
What was the time for your interview date? Like the time
for that Saturday. I chose 7:30. My friend chose 8:30. So at the end, I saw that my friend's own was in the portal, and then mine had been cancelled. And so I don't know, maybe God worked His factor. I don't know, because I don't know if I had gone on in that moment, maybe that's 7:30, if I had made it to the embassy or the interview. I don't know which visa officer would be interviewing me. So my friend chose 8:30, and then I went by the 8:30. But I got to the embassy around 7.
You got to the embassy around 7, but automatically your date got cancelled in the portal.
Yes, my 7:30 time got cancelled in the portal, but then I had the 8:30, which my friend had booked for me, available in the portal. So once they do that, you have to book the cancel one.
Oh, okay. So now you got to the embassy, the tension, and how was the feeling like? Did you engage people in conversations, or you were just on your own thinking about life and how you're going to get your visa approved or maybe disapproved, because you don't actually know what is going to happen in that room?
Yeah.
So what was going through your mind that is outside the building?
The whole night, my thought process was overwhelmed. The night to the interview, my whole thought process was overwhelmed. I was panicking. I had my mom who was calming me down. I had a few friends online who were equally calming me down. But then the morning when I woke up, I don't know, I felt some level of confidence, because I played music throughout the morning. I played inspiring music throughout the morning, and then it got me going. But it just lasted for just that morning. When I got to the embassy, it was a whole different feeling. It was crazy. The whole place was flooded with thousands of people coming for the interview. If I am not mistaken, I stand to be corrected. The number that I saw was over 3,000, or was over 2,000 people coming for the interview that day. That day, actually, Yes, it was a Saturday. That day actually recorded the highest number of interview persons for the embassy in history, actually. So I was part of that number. When I got there, it was it was frightening. You have people from every part of the region coming for the interview. People who are well outspoken, who are well vested, well driven, very intellectually good, excellent individuals, young male and female individuals who are very intelligent and very poised. And then I got there and then I asked myself, will I make it out of this whole number? Because the number is large. And then when the number is large, then you know, okay, not a lot more people will be granted visa.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. You know, out of the lots, just a few will be picked for a successful outcome. So I was questioning myself. My thought process was quite overwhelmed with how the outcome would be. But fortunately for me, I joined a queue, and then where I was standing, I had some two guys and a lady from Kumasi. I think they were friends from Kumasi, and then they were just hilarious. When I joined the line initially, the queue initially, I was still very timid, very worried, very sad, panicking in there, just hanging in there. But then they just came out loud, and then they were just cracking us up. It actually reduced the tension. And so my advice would be that when you get there, do not surround yourself around positive energy even while you're there. Well, even though you're focused, that is not the time to listen to those who are saying, okay, you have to answer this question this way, you have to go about this question this way. Do you have an answer to this question? That is not the point. It is too late to be doing that in the queue. Do not surround yourself with such people, right? But rather you should surround yourself with positive energy. So these guys and the lady cracked me up. They made the experience in the queue very fun. They took your mind off the whole process for a while, and then that calms you down to some extent. And so that really helped. So I got in there feeling confident, not feeling overwhelmed as I arrived. My feeling got changed. I felt better. And so I would say the positive energy that I received in the queue while approaching the premises of the embassy actually boosted my confidence and calmed my nerves to some extent. And so it really helped. I got in there. But when I got into the room itself.
Oh, before that one, my hunch is that those people that engaged you, like in a conversation, although you guys were talking, you were still, thinking, or you still got your mind on the kind of questions that you had prepared yourself for, right?
Absolutely, you cannot. It's impossible to eliminate that from your thought process. That is the reason why you're standing there. And so you giggle a bit, you laugh a bit, but then it comes back quickly to remind you why you're there. And so you still need to meditate, okay? Even though you're going through the fun moments, you just have to enjoy the moment because it brings you into a state of confusion, fear, fun, anxiety, all mixed together, all of these mixed feelings together going through your mind. You just have to live the moment, but make sure that the reason why you are there, you are not forgetting it, even though you have a lot of experiences going on around you.
Yeah, so after you are checked in for the first security check and everything, now let's go straight up to the time that you had finished submitting all the necessary documents at the very first beginning, and you now finding yourself in front of a lot of people where you know, okay, this is the queue that is actually leading to the view, and in the next moment you're going to be interviewed.
Yes.
Before you make that transition, I'm asking you two questions in one. Did you face any challenges in terms of you checking your document? Because at times some people face one or two challenges checking in their document. Then when you were in the queue, when you knew that, okay, it's actually going to get to my turn, how was the feeling like? You saw people being rejected, you saw people being approved, and until you get to your turn and you seen that kind of moment, how did you feel, or what was running through your mind?
Right. Even before entering the premises, I had the issue of my photographs that I had taken the night before not being the standardized one. So I had to leave the queue quickly to readjust that or address that concern. So I went there to take a picture, to take the required size of picture, and then I came back to join the queue. And then I got in. when I got in, I saw a lot of approvals actually, but then 10 people before me, I would say most of them got rejected, and that scared me so much. There was this Black American visa officer lady
Yeah,
who was rejecting a lot of people. So that if, and they all had deficits. So I was like, okay, even though I have sufficient amount of funding, I still have deficit. And so it was really scary, even though I got in there very confident and very hopeful. The amount of rejection that people ahead of me received got me very, very frightened. But then I had to just maintain my composure and know the reason why I am there. Trust me, if you are in there, it's a whole different. If you get into the interview room itself, it's a whole different feeling that you have never felt before.
yeah,
A lot of the queue is tall, a lot of people are being rejected, a lot of things are going on around you. All of this will get into your head. You can hear other people speaking, you can hear the questions being asked, you can hear responses. Okay, and so sometimes that affects you. You hear a question that you probably have not tackled on your own before coming, and then you're like, okay, if I am asked a question like this, how do I even respond to it?
yeah.
All of that going through your mind. And so it can overwhelm you, it can really frighten you, it can get you into the wrong direction if you would ask me. But one thing that I keep telling people is that you need to keep composure. Just type your mind that I am here, my story is different. I am here for a particular reason. My story is not comparable to the tons of people who are being rejected, right? And so mine is going to be different. And because there was a guy in front of me, when it was his turn to climb the mount the interview stage, he quickly rushed to the washroom because he couldn't take it. He was panicking. There was a lady in the next queue who was taking biometrics, and then we could all hear her breath because she had panic attack. So she was taken out of the room and then was calmed down. I don't know if she later returned to take her interview, but we all heard her breathe. It was scary. That moment, it was really, really scary. And I felt for her because she couldn't deal with the whole pressure. But one thing you could do to yourself is keep meditating upon yourself in there, hang in there tight, be confident, know that your story is different. Do not allow the chance of rejection scare you off. Just be confident, know what you want to say, and say it confidently. And then who knows, you might earn yourself a US visa. So it happened in my case. I was very frightened, but
Who interviewed?
well, the gentleman ahead of me who had to rush to the washroom was going to the Black American woman.
Mm-hmm.
He knew about her, and so he knew it was his turn to go to the Black American lady. He didn't want that, and so he had to quickly maneuver his way to the washroom to avoid being interviewed by the woman. So now I am left to be interviewed by the woman. But then I in my mind I was like, God, why me? Is this going to happen to me?
So basically, it means when there's like a lot of rejection, when people go out, they tell their peers or they tell their mates about which VO is actually denying a lot of people. So when you find yourself in the queue, you realize that some people, one way or the other, try to avoid the queue just to make sure they don't face such people. But I think
Yes.
that is not sometimes not advisable because you
It's
never
not
know.
the case. Yes.
You
It's
never
not
know.
always the case.
Yeah.
Your case, like I'm saying, your story is different. Your story is different. It all boils down to how you approach the interview, how you approach the whole thing as an individual. Be positive about it. It doesn't matter who interviews you.
Hmm.
Your story is different. The
Yeah.
fact that you're rejecting a lot of people with deficit doesn't mean that you would
Gonna
also
reject.
be rejected once you have a deficit. I did not believe in that, even though it scared me because definitely the worst will get to you. But then once you are able to reflect upon yourself and your story, it gives you a better sense of how your own experience can be different. So
Yeah.
just about the time when I was about to step to mount the stage of the Black American lady for my interview, she called on a B1 B2 personnel. A lady was coming for B1 B2 interview, And so she called on her and told me to join the queue back to be interviewed by another visa officer because she has to interview. It's time for her to interview a B1, B2 lady. And so I was like, I'm going. Thank goodness. And then within about 30 seconds, I got called by a lady who had, she was white. She had this wine hair.
The last counter.
The last but one counter.
Okay.
Yes, I think there was a man, either the Indian lady or there's a gentleman in glasses who was at the last counter. The counter before that counter was where I went to, and then there was this nice white middle-aged lady who interviewed me. I got to her, I was panicking, and then she told me to calm down, and then I was like, okay. We exchanged greetings, and then that calmed my nerves. When she told me I should calm down, it calmed my nerves actually, and then she said I should drop my documents. What I did, here is what I did.
Which documents did she ask for?
Exactly. So that is what I want to expand on. So usually when you go there, there are gentlemen or there are assistants all over the place telling you need to arrange the documents in certain ways. That is not the case. If you have all of your documents together and then you get to the interview officer and then the officer tells you to drop your documents, if the officer does not precisely tell you to drop your I-20 and your passport, ensure that you are dropping documents that speak well or that are supporting your interview. Arrange them accordingly. What I did was that on top, you see, you put your documents in your passport, then you drop it into the counter, right? So I put my sponsorship letter. Definitely your I-20 must come first, right? So after my I-20, under the I-20, I kept my scholarship letter or my sponsorship letter, right, from the school. So, and then after my sponsorship letter was another sponsorship letter for my deficit from my sponsor. Yeah. So I kept all of those documents beneath each other, arranged them according to how they can support my argument. Okay. So I remembered once she took the passport or the documents, she opened it, saw my I-20, and then read through the whole front page of the I-20, and then flipped to see if it had been signed. So once she saw it had been signed, she flipped to my scholarship letter, and then she took her time to read the whole thing. So once she was done, she was like, "You have good funding. That is very nice. Who is paying for your remaining little deficit?" This is the thing. She said, "Remaining little deficit." She saw that I had huge amounts of scholarship. I had a very well-written sponsorship letter from the school to support this. Now, if you're not smart, you put that sponsorship letter all the way down, and then they don't go through every document one after the other, right? They are looking at certain documents. So you need to be strategic as to how you arrange your documents. Yeah. Because there's no time. You have about just 30 seconds, 1 minute or 2 minutes to prove yourself. So they are not going to go through every document. So you need to be very skillful and very smart how you arrange your documents to sound convincing. So that is what I did. She asked, okay, so she saw the name of my sponsor on my I-20 and she asked, why is this person paying for your little deficit left? And then I explained to...
Was that the first question?
No, the first question, so once I dropped the document, before you even drop the document, they have a first question for you. The first question was, where are you going to? And then I said, I'm going to Eastern State University to pursue a master's program in communication studies and storytelling. And she was like, storytelling, that is very interesting. She hasn't had a lot of people coming in to study storytelling. Why do I wish to study storytelling? Then I had to explain to her.
Purpose of study. Now she's asking you purpose of study.
Yes. So I had to go on to tell her that, okay, this is what I want to do. I have a background in communication studies. I want to see how I can use certain elements of storytelling and then merge them together with my communication studies background or the communication studies discourse, and then see how I can impact society with that experience. And she said, in what field? I said, as a child, I grew up in a country where the sustainable development goals have been around the place for a very long time. They have been well explained. We know when and how we are supposed to achieve it, but we do not know, it is not, the achievement is not quite effective and efficient as possible. And so I want to be part of that collaborative community that contributes to the Sustainable Development Goal 1 to Goal 5. from hunger to poverty to education to equality and all that. So my answer was quite correct, but was sounded very, very convincing, right? And she was really surprised as to how a gentleman would like to study storytelling, right? And so I took advantage of how unique my program was, and then I had tangible reasons to support why I'm going to pursue such a program. And so she was really, really convinced. So I think the second question was, why are you studying the program? Now, this is the trick. Once you are asked, why are you going to the US?
Why are you studying the program was going to be like the third question, because the first one you said she actually asked you, why are you here? And the purpose of study. Then,
And then, why am I going to study communication? She asked the question again. I was surprised. I was like, okay, I just answered. Why are you going to study storytelling? I just answered. So why are you asking me again? In my thought process, that was what was going on. But then I was like, okay, maintain your answer.
That's something good that I think people should take note of. At times, they just want to know if you owe your story, like if you actually know what you're talking about. So at times, they can ask you a question, two separate questions, yet it's linking to a very same answer, or it's linking to one same answer, which they want you to reiterate or say again.
Again, they just want to know that you are not just here for being here's sake. You know exactly what you want and why you are here. So she asked why storytelling, I answered. And then she asked again, why are you going to study a master's program in the US? I was like, I just answered your question. But then I remember during my interview process, I noticed that, why are you going to the US? Why are you going to study at Eastern State University, for example? And why are you going to study this particular program? Has the same answer. It just depends on how you finish it. So you take it, why are you going to the US in the first place? You are going to the US to pursue a program. Why are you going to pursue that program in that particular school? You have a reason. Okay, there are tons of communication studies program all around the place in the US, in multiple schools in the US. But then I chose Eastern State University to study because it blends communication studies with storytelling. Okay, that is unique. That is why I am going to the school. That is why I'm going to the US, right? The school is in the US. The program is in the school. The school is in the US. So, and it's a link. It has this link.
Interchangeably.
That you need to draw. It's very interchangeable. So you need to draw that particular linkage between all of these three questions. So once you're asked those three questions, your answer should remain the same. Your answer, but it depends on how you finish it. If I was asked, why are you going to the US? I would have given the same answer, but at the end, I'll just say, and the school happens to be in the US, and that is why I'm going to the US. As simple as that. Okay. Or the program, the program happens. I want to be exposed to communication and studies and storytelling elements and ideas and ideologies and phenomena to help. And that program can only be read or is available at Eastern State University, and that is why I'm going to Eastern State University. Be specific with reasons why you're going to the school or the US.
Love that. Right? Be specific. I think people try and talk in a very generic manner, which is really not good. You shouldn't talk from general perspective. They want you to personalize the story. They want you to own the story. They want you to say it in a way that they are like, okay, you are not actually rambling the kind of answers that you are giving. So the moment you start, they just want to give you the opportunity.
But yes, because it was later when I got here that I noticed that they don't like beating about the bush. Like, they're always straight to the point. Okay, if you have an answer, let us know it. You don't have to give so many premises before you come to the major answers, right? You don't have to give supporting answers before you come to the major answer. And so that is what I noticed, and it reflected in the embassy as well, right? They want you to be as crisp as possible, straight to the point. Tell them the reason why you're here. Tell them why you're pursuing the program. Tell them who is funding you. Do not be very fleshy about your answers. If not, you might end up wasting their time. In their minds, they're like, okay, you're not picking words. You're not trying to answer the question. You're not very concise. You're not very articulate. You're not poised. You're not confident. It all affects how you. Going to the embassy, I had so many fears. The fear of failure, the fear of falling short, the fear of not measuring up. I had so many fears, but then I overcome my fear with faith. Faith is the only way you can make it through this process. Right from applications to interviews to all aspects of the process is very, very risky, sensitive, and very tiring and scary. But then you can only go through the process successfully when you have faith. That is, surround yourself with positive people.
There's something in Ghana, project sustainable development. So you want to come back and help in that kind of sustainable development. Do you think that is what won you the visa or any other thing? Because at times, you know the kind of question and the kind of answer that actually gave you the visa approval. In your case, which one was it?
Okay, so here's what happened. So when she asked me that the question of why are you going for this program, and then I brought in the sustainable development goals and why I want to use storytelling in the aspect of education, health, and poverty and all that. She asked again. In my case, she asked again. So what would the program do for you? And so I answered, in a short-term goal, this is what I want to do. In a long-term goal, this is what I want to do. Okay, so I answered the question in two folds. I noticed that when I answered the first question, the answer was quite far from reaching as a short-term goal. And they know you are graduating from your first degree and you're going straight into your master's program. You should have a short-term goal, what you want to do immediately. Okay, you don't have to give them a goal that is far from reaching. You can't achieve that goal. It is not realistic for you to achieve that goal once you complete or graduate from graduate school. No, it is impossible. You know yourself that that particular goal is not reachable once you graduate from graduate school. And so you need to give them an immediate goal, okay? A short-term goal that you think you would be able to achieve once you graduate from graduate school. So in my case, I told them I wanted to be a university professor. Okay, I have passion for teaching as well, and so I would love the opportunity to be vested and be well skilled with how to impact knowledge at the university level. So I wanted to become a university professor or a lecturer. And she was like, okay, so that is your short-term goal. I said yes. And then she said, so the earlier answer you gave, was that your long-term goal? Then I said yes. It might not be the case for everybody that the VO would actually direct your answers or try to connect your answers. And so be concise. Okay. In my case, it worked in my favor. Not every VO you would not leave premises for the VO to draw conclusions to, right? So be as precise as possible. So once you're asked, like I was asked, why are you pursuing the program? Maybe I should have brought in my short-term goal and my long-term goal. But then I remember stating only my long-term goal without bringing in a short-term goal. It was after she asked the second time again in a different way that I processed it quickly in my thought process that, okay, maybe I should state a short-term goal and a long-term goal. Because if I state a long-term goal, it might seem far from reach, right? So I did that and then it worked. But then I would advise that be as forward as possible, be concise as possible. This is my short-term goal. This is what the program will do for me in a short term. Short-term means right after graduation. That is what I tend to do with the program. Long-term means, okay, all of the knowledge I have been able and the training I have received, this is how I wish to invest this into society in a long term. Okay, so you need to state both. You don't have to, it's better to even state the short-term goal than state the long-term goal. Yeah.
Yeah, so it all depends on how you link it and how you also let them know you'll be coming back, because it's a non-immigrant visa, and non-immigrant means that after your studies, you're going to come back to your home country. So
exactly.
I'm going to actually make a video on that and talk about the home ties, talking about the travel history, talking about your work back home, and talking about the last one, which is marriage or family. Take this white paper, your visa has been approved.
It was an incredible feeling.
Share with us.
It was an incredible feeling. So I remember after stating my long and short-term goal, she asked, okay, who is this man on your I-20 who is sponsoring your deficit? So once I said he's my uncle, he's sponsoring my deficit, he owns this, he owns that. And then he said, why is he sponsoring your deficit? Why are your parents not sponsoring your deficit? Then I told her the reason why my parents are not able to sponsor my deficits. And then I told her my father was late and then my mother did not have the financial capacity to, and so my uncle had stepped in right from my undergraduate level, saw me through my undergraduate level, and then was enthusiastic about the news of me studying, having been admitted and getting a scholarship in the US. And then she asked, really, your uncle was enthusiastic about this? I said, yes, my uncle was very, very excited about the news that I would have the opportunity to gain more experience in the US and then come back to invest it into the Ghanaian society in ways that are very resonating to me. And she was like, that is inspiring. So
you told the view that your father has passed. Was it branding, or in the actual sense, your father had actually passed?
even though my father had actually passed, I told the VO I lost my dad in a terrible accident in 2016. You need to. My dad has actually passed, but you need to cook. You need to cook.
Yeah. I think I intentionally asked you that question because now it's so common when people go to the embassy and they go with the uncle auntie story. These are people that, if you really want to gain their trust, or if you really want your visa to be approved in the earliest time possible, you just have to go with immediate family story. So my father, my mom, my sister, my brother is sponsoring me. Whenever they hear that, they know, okay, these are your immediate family members. But when you go with distant family, like my father's sisters, brothers, cousin, they know that is far-fetched. They know that is something that, so nowadays, they actually emphasize on that and make sure that you are telling them something that they can, something that they can be convinced with. So I think if you are going to the embassy, you have a deficit, and the bank statement you are going to use to prove that deficit is not from your mom, your dad, or your sister and brother, and it's coming from a distant relative or cousin or whatsoever. Make sure that your story is really convincing, because if you don't convince them why your parents, maybe they are alive and they decided not to take care of you, and your uncle or your distant relative member who is going to take care of you. I mean, if you don't prove to them and show them that this is the reason why this particular person is sponsoring my deficit or is coming in at this particular point in time, they're not going to buy that story, because they know at times they can even go on to ask, is your uncle married? Because the moment your uncle is married and the person is actually having kids, it means your uncle can't take care of the wife, the kids, and take care of you while your parents are actually alive. So you have to make sure you are cooking the story. Cook the story well. Cook it in a very convincing manner.
When you get to the US, you would notice that if you are a graduate teaching assistant, you would know most of my students that I teach they have 3 jobs. They have 4 jobs in a day. They have 2 jobs in a day. They still make it to class. And so you ask yourself, oh, okay, that is why when we go with this uncle auntie story in the embassy, they get very surprised, because in the US you don't get a lot of uncles and aunties sponsoring your education. You don't get that. You work and pay your fees. You work your ass off and pay your fees, right? And so when I got here, then I noticed why the uncle and the auntie story is getting very tiring at the US embassy. I remember my friend asked me, is your father really dead, or is just a story you're cooking up? I was like, leave me alone to tell my story the way I want to tell it. And so you need to have a very convincing story. If you're going with an uncle, make sure that once you're asked, is your uncle having children, you're able to say, okay, maybe my uncle has kids, but the kids are all grown, they are working, or maybe they are very young.
You can't actually tell, because anything can happen.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible. So after answering the question of why is my uncle sponsoring me, and then within that process, she flipped to the other sponsorship letter from my uncle and then read that. And so once she was reading, and in my case, she was not looking at my face. She kept looking on my documents and on her computer. So I don't know what was going on. But what I did was that I kept talking. I kept convincing. I didn't sound nervous. I wasn't forcing the answers. I made my voice, the answer, the composure, the tone, everything correlated. I keep telling people, if you're saying something sad, make sure it reflects in your expression, your tone, your facial expression. If you're saying something exciting. So when I got to the point where I was saying my uncle, one of my uncles saw my admission, got the notice of my admission and my funding from the US. He was very enthusiastic. He was very enthused about it. I smiled. But when it got to the point where I was telling her, my uncle is sponsoring me because my dad is late and all that, I made sure my face looked very sober and very sad, a little bit like very moody and all that. So your emotions, your tone, your voice, everything comes to play. Okay, these people are psychologists. These people are counselors. These people are well vested. They are well vested in human psychology. You cannot play tricks on them. They know emotions. They know natural emotions when they see them. They know if you're lying when they see you, and so you can't outsmart. The only way you can do that if you work is if you work well on your emotions. You work well on your tone, your voice. You make sure you blend everything together for your good. So I think I did that. I used that static, and then it worked for me. The strategy, and then it worked for me. And then in the middle of still answering the question of my uncle is the one sponsoring, convincing him why my uncle is sponsoring me. In the process of convincing her why my uncle is sponsoring me, she just said, "I didn't finish. I didn't land. I didn't even hear her well. I didn't hear." She just said, "Your visa has been approved. Take this flat sheet," and then it was.
The other statement is always the case. Take this white paper, your visa has been approved.
Oh my God, you don't hear it. You don't hear it.
We are just waiting for approved or disapproved, then we go away. So
I thought people were actually making that up.
No, that's true, because I really don't remember any of the statement that came after your visa has been approved. No.
Yes. I thought people were actually making that up until I had to experience it myself.
So now
then okay, what did he say? Did she say I should come back here for the passport, or what? I didn't hear it.
Your visa is going to be held by them, so maybe it's ready by the DHL. You go take it there. And so after you took the white paper, you got out of the place. Like, how was the atmosphere? How were you feeling? Like just
I remember when I was going in, there was a police officer who said to me, she said something at the entry, at the checkpoints before the entry. She said something that next time when you're coming, don't bring along your bag or any electrical material or something. She said something like that. And then I had to quickly respond to her. I am not coming back in Jesus' name. I said that to her. So when I entered and then I got approved and then I came back, I was in shock. She saw me and she was in shock. So she came, she held me, and then she shook me because I didn't. You see, when you're approved, I don't know if that happens to everyone. It's a different feeling. Like it's like a movie to you. It's like a whole movie scene that you're still in. It's like a dream. So I remember the police officer had to shake me for a while to bring me back into reality. It was a very exciting feeling, one that I would wish for everyone. It was incredible. It was a moment I would never forget, because I came out still like not living the moment in reality light. I was lost. I thought it was a whole movie process I was going through. It was really, really exciting, and I would wish for everyone to go through that approvals experience.
Yeah, so now you are in the US and you've spent almost 4 months here. What is that true advice you're going to give to people? You've been here for like 4 months. You've gone through a lot, but to make it very brief and very detailed, what is one advice you can give to those who are interested in applying? Some of them, if you want to give to, some of them want to even pay for some agents to work it out for them. Not actually have a problem with that. If you want an agent to do for you, it's good in a way. But what is that one advice you want to give to somebody? Maybe someone doesn't have money to even pay an agent, but the person wants to apply to schools abroad. What is that one advice you give to them? And you've been here in US for some time now. What have you gone through that you think you can share with prospective students who are planning to come to the US?
Okay, so I'll take it first from what advice I would give to those who are incoming or those who wish to take the process from the scratch. Please do invest yourself into this process. Do not think that someone paying your application fee for you in the US or someone submitting your application on your behalf makes you a better candidate or gives you a higher chance of succeeding. You might be lucky and make it through the interview and the application process and the scholarship process successfully. But when you get here and then you are not well vested into the process before getting here, you would suffer. That is the word. I can't look for a better word to express my thoughts. That is how you would feel. You will feel awful. What the application process does for you, most especially as a postgraduate study individual or candidate, is that it takes you through this rigorous process. That is exactly the process, or that is exactly the amount of intensity you would be facing in graduate school, master's, PhD. Very overwhelming, very intense, very, very rigorous. This is what the experience does to you. It gives you premises to what is yet to come. Graduate school is difficult, like we have stated. It is very, very difficult. It takes passion. It takes confidence. It takes a very driven person to pursue graduate studies. And so if you end up not getting yourself vested into the process of making it to graduate school, then you don't get the exposure to how graduate school may seem like or is, right? When I came, the graduate adjusting to graduate school has been very difficult. But the whole process of submitting multiple applications, writing multiple essays, chasing professors for recommendations, preparing for interview, preparing for a whole lot of stages in the process actually boosted my confidence. It actually gave me the strength to deal with all of the stress that comes with attending graduate school. And so my advice would be, please get yourself, even if you're paying someone to do it for you, let the person take you through the whole process. The major things in the process, make sure you are investing it into the process, okay? Only pay the person to maybe review your documents or take you through processes that you can't typically learn online. But searching for the schools, go online. It is not easy. The whole process is not easy. So you have to invest yourself, go online, search for the schools, consult your program directors, let them know what you want to do. If you're unsure about, okay, you've seen a program you might be interested in, but then you do not have tangible reasons to state why you are really interested in the program, then you can employ someone to actually narrow down some of the reasons you could probably devise from reasons why you want to pursue graduate studies, okay? But make sure you start the process on your own. Even if you are not starting on your own, make sure that along the line you are taking throughout the process. You are well vested in the process throughout, because without that, at some point in time, you would suffer the consequences of not actually going through the process yourself. So my advice would be, make sure that you are well vested in the process, but consult others who can help you. And once you consult the right people, they know how to help you. They don't feed you. The right people do not feed you, okay? The right people actually help you structure. They help you be better, okay? They help you from stage 1 to stage 2. Do not let them start stage 1 and then you continue with stage 2. No. Consult the right people and then they know how to help you. This process, you don't have to be a very good student to know how to do this process or to know how to go about the process, okay? Most of us are good students. Most of us can write well. Most of us have the potential to succeed, okay? But this process actually humbles you. I am not saying I'm a good writer, but then when it comes to telling stories, writing composition, comprehensive, writing stories, coming about writing premises, writing things, I'm good at it. But here is the case, I was writing personal statements that was actually earning people master's degree in the UK, in the US, in Ireland, but then I was unable to write it for myself successfully until someone came in to restructure it for me. And so please, even though I am telling you to be individualistic, wait, so this is the thing. Graduate school is very independent. Graduate students are expected to do independent study and independent writing. The only people graduate students or candidates are supposed to consult are their professors to get more insight into assignment. They don't require you to consult online tools or to consult people to do your assignments for you, no. Graduate school requires that you do independent writing. You write independently, you study independently. That is what graduate school requires. And so once you go through this application process and the whole process successfully, you would see, you would reflect later to know that, okay, this is what the process did to me. It made me go through this process solely, and then give me insight as to how I can adjust. Because most of us are coming from a background where we do assignments together, we do group work, we do group studies and all that. But here, I'm not saying they don't do group assignments or group work, group studies, but it's quite different in graduate school. In graduate school, you need to do a lot of things independently. So I would say, be well vested into the process. Ensure that you are very positive about the whole process, because it can be very tiring. Do not worry. There is no sleep. There is no sleep for the worry. Please do not worry. Okay, make sure that you know why you are pursuing this, and pursue it with your full chest, with your full vim, with passion. Most importantly, select courses that you can resonate with, and then you can deal with them under pressure. Graduate school is pressure. So once you don't have, you haven't chosen a course or a program that you easily resonate with, it becomes more challenging and very annoying. But once you're passionate about it, no matter how challenging it is, just like life or career, you're passionate about it, no matter the downfalls, you rise up, pick up your invisible crown and keep pursuing your dream. That is how graduate school is. So please be well vested into the process, and make sure that all along you are following through, and then I'm sure you will be successful at the end. Ensure that you are taking key notes and maintain attention, maintain meticulous attention to the requirements you are submitting to school. Some of you make mistakes of submitting the same personal statement to multiple schools without even being smart enough to change the names of the school in your personal statement. And that doesn't speak well of you as a graduate student, or as a student who has the capacity to succeed in a program in the US. And so ensure that you pay attention to very pertinent things in there. I think on that side, that is what I would say. Consult good people. Yes, please consult people who have the experience to impact your application, or to ensure that you succeed. Some will just take your money. Most of these people who help you submit applications, they probably don't even know much about the whole application process. Okay? They are just going online to learn, and then you pay them, and then they do something which is not, at the end of the day, you don't even have your admission. Talk less having been this thing, a funding opportunity. You don't. Most of these people are not well experienced. They are not well vested. They don't have any background in helping people succeed in landing scholarship opportunities or application opportunities in the US. So please ensure that you're consulting the right people who can help you. Okay, your channel has been an incredible platform, and then I would advise that if anyone has questions, they bring it on board onto your channel, and then you'll be more than willing to help them, right? Because you have gone through the process. I know how helpful you have been to me, my whole process, and I know how helpful and resilient you are once you are helping others. And so I would advise that they consult the right people to get a very successful outcome. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Manuel. Actually, what you said is true. So if you are watching and you are applying to a particular school, if let's say you are applying to University of Maine, University of Kentucky, University of Illinois, just go to LinkedIn, type in the school, and add graduate students to it. You're going to get tons of students that are Ghanaians that are in that particular school. So you can just type the name of the school, then you just add graduate students from Ghana. You're actually going to get series of students who are there, who are African or who are from Ghana. I am saying that because they are people you can actually relate or resonate with. At times, you can get other international or foreign students. You just link up with them. Hey, my name is blah, blah, blah. I'm applying to your school, and I just wanted to reach out to you if you could advise me on any. That is how you should be strategic about this whole process. Like
yes.
I said, it's not for the intelligent, it's not for the one who is very knowledgeable, but it's for the one who is very smart. You should be very smart in this school application process.